Hi, everybody. I'm Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are kind of strange times. So I thought I would maybe start a new habit of coming online about 9 o'clock every weekday morning, and doing a little Charter Moms chat to kind of tell you just how these are, yeah, like I said, these are weird times. We're on kind of week 2 of spring break, which in other circumstances would be a dream come true for kids, except that we're all practicing social distancing, right? So everything's closed, and we need to stay home and not interact with people like we normally would. And since the schools are closed, we're kind of wondering, what's going to happen with our kids' education. And that's the area where I feel like I have some expertise to help. So I have been a homeschooler in the past. Let me just back up and tell you a little bit about me. So I started San Antonio Charter Moms as a blog back in 2012, and then a few years ago it became a nonprofit. And now we have a team that works. What we usually do is, as our activities, we help families figure out what their school options are in San Antonio, how they can apply, how to compare different schools, but we have kind of a broader mission, which is how to improve the quality of education in San Antonio. And right now, the way to do that is, since the schools are closing and they're sending work home with families, is basically we're your support group for accidental homeschoolers. And I guess one thing I can bring to that as an experience, so I have 2 kids. I have my son Nicholas is 12, and my daughter Annika is 10, and they're both students at Great Hearts Monte Vista, which is like everyone else on week 2 of spring break. But before Great Hearts opened during the 2013-2014 school year, when my son would have been in first grade, I homeschooled him, and so I've done it. I wasn't great at it, but there were some things we did really well and some things where he had gaps that the school was able to catch him up in second grade. But I know the feeling of, like, am I going to screw this up? What resources are there out there? How do I stay sane? How do I keep a schedule? How do I get work done? Those are all issues that homeschoolers have to face, especially those who are working moms and dads who are homeschoolers too. So that's basically, just kind of count on me to come online about 9 a.m. Central Time every weekday, and tell me what your questions are. Let's see. I'm going to check my laptop, see if anyone's got any questions yet. Probably not yet, but we'll pick. I can, depending on what things you need to know, we can change the topics up a little bit each time. But what I kind of wanted to focus on most today was, I was thinking back to when I realized that I was going to be homeschooling my son, and kind of what that transition was like from, withdrawing him from our neighborhood school, which is a good school. It just wasn't a good fit for him. And it was, things got pretty scary there before I actually made the decision to withdraw him. And this is all happening in a backdrop of, we're all worried. I mean, I have, my dad is 85, and I don't know how to keep him safe. We all have people that we're worried about, that we want to keep safe, and so we're all just going to try to do the best we can. And in the discussion group, I'm committed to keeping things factual and not panicking. So I want to try to share, as information that's as accurate as possible. So, like, over the weekend, we've been working really hard to keep track of school closures, and we're going to keep, basically, like, almost everything is closed this week, and most schools have said that they're going to make some kind of announcement by Thursday. We're also waiting on, so the Commissioner of Education, Mike Morath, has said that by Thursday there will be some kind of announcement coming out regarding what's happening with STAR testing. This is my speculation, but I honestly don't see how they can evaluate schools in April or May after school's been out for weeks. I mean, that's not evaluating what the school has done. That's evaluating what a bunch of us are trying to do at home. And, some of us don't have internet, and some of us are still working our jobs, and some of us are scared out of our minds because there's a pandemic going on. So, so we'll see what TEA says. I know that the superintendents there's some kind of like daily conference call going on with the commissioner, with lawmakers, and with the superintendents, and they're making kind of collective decisions, and they're looking to, like, Mayor Ron Nirenberg, who's in touch with the CDC, and so basically, I feel like our leaders are doing the best they can to keep us safe and give us good advice. We can try to speculate about what's going to happen, but basically just hold on tight until Thursday, and then we'll know more about how long the school closure will be. Are they going to go back to school in a couple weeks? Are they, is school off for the rest of the school year, right? So they'll come back in August. What kind of distance learning options are there? There's just a lot we don't know. So basically, my advice today is just hang on, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we like to call deschooling. So when I withdrew my son from kindergarten, I was terrified and I was frustrated, and I was having trouble picturing like what homeschooling would be like. And thankfully I had friends, you know who you guys are, you're my girls, thank you. That was a really tough time. I was really scared because my son is on the autism spectrum, and we were getting a lot of feedback of like, if you don't do all these things right away, then he's not going to be able to be independent. And thankfully, he has exceeded our expectations for what he can do. He participates in school, he speaks up in class, he takes notes, he does group work, all kinds of things that are, really a challenge for kids with autism. But it's taken a lot of work, and I worry about if he's not getting the supports that he was getting in school, how do we keep him from losing ground? And I think a lot of special ed families are worried about that right now. And how can special ed families get an equal education without the supports that we've come to expect from school? So that's a topic for another day, special ed. But basically, what my friends had guided me to do once I withdrew him from school was basically de-school. Like, don't try to set up school right away. Kind of give yourself a little time. I think really think of this week as a second spring break. Don't think of it as you have to ramp up homeschooling right away. Another thing that I think is a myth that people think about homeschooling is that they think homeschooling, it looks like setting up a traditional public school classroom in your house, and that's not true. I think what we did as homeschoolers would best be described as kind of eclectic homeschooling, maybe, where we had kind of a mix of this and a mix of that. We bought a math curriculum. We used Singapore math. I knew that's what Great Hearts was using, so I thought, well, let's get started with that at home. And so that was a pretty structured time. We'd sit down with the manipulatives, like the little blocks, and do the textbook, do the workbook. For reading, we went to the library a lot. Now, keep in mind, San Antonio Public Library is closed this week, but there are a lot of online resources that you can access. So, the library has apps that let you download ebooks and audiobooks and things like that. So don't give up on reading. Just know that the San Antonio Public Libraries are closed this week. So we did a lot of reading together, and actually, really, like I say, April's comment, like, create a fun learning environment. It's one of the great things about homeschooling is it does build like togetherness, because you're doing it with your kids, and things like reading a book together and sharing a story, and just sharing the physical closeness with the people who are in your bubble that you're staying safe with. So I've seen posts in the group and online about how to set up your schedule. Basically, how we did it was we had kind of this cycle of like eat and drink, then get physical activity, then sit and study, and then, go to the bathroom, and then repeat. So it's like food and drink, physical activity, then sit and study, go to the bathroom, repeat. And so like we'd have like a morning block of that, right? Like breakfast, play, read, or math, and then bathroom, and then repeat. So think of it, and depending on the age of your kid, like for very young kids, you might have like 2 cycles in the morning, a nap, a cycle in the afternoon, dinner, maybe do a family activity and then get everyone to bed, bath time, bedtime. For like bigger kids, they might have longer blocks, right? So like your morning block might be longer and your afternoon block is longer. But I mean, basically that, like, not every kid's the same, but I mean, my kids have a lot of energy, especially my son, and it just wasn't possible to get him to sit and do math unless we had some time outside. Now, one of the challenges about going outside, like, I really can't recommend that you just go to your neighborhood playground. I mean, because, we all need to practice social distancing. So, if you can play in your backyard, if you have a backyard, that's great. If you have just like maybe one other trusted family that your kids play with each other, but don't play with other kids in the neighborhood. Or what we've been doing a lot is going to the greenway trails and the natural areas in San Antonio, because those have a lot of open space. They don't have a lot of play structures or things that attract people's touching and hands. But it's really hard if you have young children, because they do put things in their mouth. They do touch their eyes and nose and mouth. And it's just really hard. So, maybe we can share things. If you have tips about like, kids yoga or like videos or activities, like physical things to do, especially because there's a lot of rain in the forecast this week. So, but you got to get that energy out. And I really recommend get the energy out before you expect a kid to sit down and do math or do flashcards or do a science experiment or things like that. So I think one thing too about, we can all look up the TEKS and figure out like what is a 4th grader supposed to learn in Texas, and to get some Texas history resources but keep in mind you've got some freedom here. So if you want to do calligraphy, if you want to do a cooking class, right? Like so like Erin Chase at $5 Dinners, she's got a cooking class that she's going to do at noon. So change it up a little bit. Maybe practice some swing dancing. I don't know, just but tailor it to your kids' interests, because that is actually like one of the better things about homeschooling, is that you can make it you can make it unique to them, right? So like my son, who's always been interested in I guess disasters, I don't know, like Chernobyl, I don't know, he asks a lot of questions about coronavirus. We've been watching a lot of movies about pandemics and stuff, but go with it, like figure out what their interests are, and they'll learn a lot about geography or science or things like that along the way if you just tune into their interests. So those are, I printed out some notes. My friend Denise Moore is an experienced homeschooler, so her youngest is almost an adult. But she's been doing this for decades, and she shared some thoughts about this is what got me thinking about the deschooling, and also that your home doesn't have to look like a classroom. You can be doing the reading on the couch, and you can do the math at your dinner table, and you can do the science experiment in your backyard with some Mentos and Coke or whatever supplies you want to do. But her advice is just like give yourself some grace, like build in some playtime. If this week everyone's just too stressed out, just watch some Netflix and play outside and just be together as a family and just treat it as a second spring break. So, but if you can start getting on a schedule and building up those habits, then when your school starts sending home packets or they send you a login, to do the online resources, you'll be kind of in a groove. So, I guess. I'm trying to think, just tell me how SA Charter Moms can help. We've got a thread in the group about the school closures. We probably won't know more until Thursday about what next week will look like, but we'll keep updating that post. We are gathering ideas about, what folks can do for online learning, and we're going to put those into a post, and we'll share that soon. So right now it's just a thread in the group, but that's coming on the blog. There's information about like meals, like which school districts are still serving the free lunch program, where you can like do curbside and pick up a sack breakfast or pick up a lunch. just, you know, but I mean, you tell me, like, do you need to know about how to teach math? Do you need to know about how to keep a schedule? Do you just, do you need advice from a family counselor about, you know, how family dynamics when you're all cooped up together for a long time? Just, I mean, you all, you know, post in the comments, and I'll, you know, I will tap into the network of, you know, the SA Charter Moms community, and, you know, we'll try to find you some answers. And, yeah, so I'll be back at about 9 a.m. Central tomorrow with, you know, more, hopefully calm words, hopefully some encouragement. Just, I mean, this is a time of uncertainty, but, you know, we'll be stronger if we can do this together. You know, if we can keep our kids happy and safe and learning, and then, you know, we'll make it through this as a community, okay? All right, bye.